You know, you get on my nerve, man.
Yeah, we're on the air. But you have your microphone now. You
Oh, no,
put
I
your
haven't hooked it up
headphones.
yet. I haven't.
Oh,
Let me
okay.
see.
Because,
Okay, now I have.
yeah.
Did my saying you got on my nerve?
Yeah.
Go on. Good.
It's not a problem. You get on my damn nerves,
I
too.
know.
You know. So
I know how
it's
you
a
go.
mutual, It's a mutual thing.
I know.
It's a mutual
This is
nerves.
This is
how we roll.
how we roll.
Okay.
This is how we roll.
This is how we do it. This is how
The word
we
was
do
rolled.
it. No, that's your word. My word is how we do it. Okay? You have a song, This Is How We Roll?
Yeah, it's a country
How does it
song.
go? Yeah, okay. Well, mine is This Is How We Do It.
Okay.
That's your boy. Who that is? Gappe or Charlie Wilson?
Yeah,
or one of them.
that's
Who is that? Who's Charlie Wilson.
Jordan, Montel Jordan.
Oh, okay. Same
You don't
crew.
even know who it is.
It doesn't matter.
You when you.
Same crew. Now, what's going on?
Oh, I have a couple of things to say
Go
first.
ahead. First of all, let me just say belated happy birthday to you, Michael Jackson.
This man sends me a
And you know why I
birthday
say Michael Jackson?
greeting.
Because she's bad. She's bad. Yeah.
You know that. He sends me a birthday. How many years have I been doing this show? Almost 3 years.
Mm.
And sent.
And by the way, thank you for the slushie.
As he noshes on my slushie.
No, who's slushie?
My slushie.
No, the slushie you bought from me. It's not your slushie. I don't eat other people's slushies.
Okay. The slushie my hard-earned money purchased. Sends me a birthday greeting that says, Happy birthday, Michael Jackson. And that's it. And then when whack October rolls around, sorry if you're born in October, just whack for his birthday.
Yeah, no problem.
I send the most beautiful greetings to you.
Yes,
sir.
Okay, no problem.
Most beautiful greetings.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? It stops.
Because I've never sent you a beautiful greeting.
No. Not. You've gotten me a card before, yeah.
Yeah. Never. It's never. I
have a joke for you. Oh, but before I even say that, let
me ask you a question.
Yes?
Are you insane?
Why?
I just think you're insane.
No, it's so much going on in my head right now.
See, Kendrick is even. See. Now
like,
you know what happens, right?
Kendrick.
Usually Kendrick is stoic. Okay?
I know, right?
But when are you finally hit the question? Because he don't know where you're coming from either.
Yeah, he might know.
No, he don't know. That's why when I said.
Because we had a conversation.
He doesn't know. That's why when I said, "Are you insane?" It finally clicked on him. You know what? Feels got it.
It's just funny the way you said it.
No, you said, you know what? Feels touch on something.
No. I want to say happy belated birthday to my sister who was born on my birthday.
You serious?
Come try and upstage
so she's
me.
Michael Jackson too, eh?
Michael Jackson. She's Thriller. And I'm the bad album. And I have to say happy birthday to Naughty as well. Today is his birthday, my fellow Virgo brother.
Okay.
So that's good. And I wasn't here when Larry Smith passed away.
Oh, yeah.
And so I wanted to send my condolences to his family. Mrs. Smith was always really cool with me and always very helpful when I needed interviews when I was a reporter. And I'm going to miss him terribly. So.
Larry's my buddy. I was saying on the air, you weren't here, Erica was here, I was saying how he was the one person, well, there are other people, but he was one of the few people who, when I asked him to go on the show, well, most people, I've not had any refusals.
He doesn't like
right.
Doing shows.
I've not had any refusals. I've had people who say, well, let me give you a date or whatever. Larry's, no, I'm not gonna. That's not me. Well, you remember when because when we were booking, you'd heard him too. I think you may have even heard him when I was calling him once.
Yes.
And it's like, I'm not quick like that. I'm not. I need to reflect. I need to. I
feel him though.
Yeah. No, it's.
He was lethal with the pen. He was great with the pen.
He wasn't wasting time with me. He say, listen, man, that ain't for me.
I enjoyed his columns though because he always had it was always great context and it was always very well researched. Yeah. Lots of history,
You have to in
that.
writing, in journalism specifically, not so much in writing, but in journalism, the art of the callback. It's a comedic term when comedians draw on a former joke or something, right? But the art of referencing something previously is almost non-existent. Okay, but that's context.
Yeah.
Because when you do that, you allow me the capacity to form an opinion, not to be essentially have an opinion thrust on me. If that makes any sense.
It makes sense, but sometimes it does thrust an opinion on you when you put it in, when you give that background information.
That was a good little thing, eh? You catch it and everything.
Yeah. You're so tacky.
That's not tacky. No, you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. So what else is up?
But I missed him. Today,
Mm-hmm.
me and you have to stop. We haven't done practical jokes on each other in a long time. I was telling Kendrick this, right?
We finished with that.
You finished with it?
Yeah.
Why?
Didn't you do something to me or I did something to you? What was the last thing I did?
I don't remember, but you.
It was good. The last thing I did to you, I think, was good.
It was good. You always doing crazy stuff.
Yeah. What was it that I did to her? Do you recall?
Oh,
I said you were dead?
I did that one when I said Kendrick.
I wasn't here. I don't remember that.
When there was a gentleman inside the obituaries whose name was Kendrick Williams, and then Kendrick wasn't here, and I said, this is why Kendrick didn't show up to work. And I sent the thing where he had passed away.
That didn't do it for me. There was another thing that you. Oh, I know.
What?
Was it something that it was something to do with moving from the station or something?
Oh, when I said I'm leaving to go back to the States, something like that.
That was
the last one.
Yeah.
And I said I wanted to give you notice that I was.
Right.
That was a good one.
Yeah. You know, let me just say something to you. There are things that I can't say on the radio to you. But I'll say them off the air, so no problem, listening audience. I'll say it to her because I know that's how you're feeling toward her right now. But so that was I think that was the last one, unless I got you back.
And I think we ended it there.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm just so accustomed to you doing
now
the
that
voices
you remind me, you know what? I don't think I ended it. You know, I think I
no,
just forgot.
Now listen. Listen.
Kendrick, listen. I think that I just because I'm mature. I think
no, you're not.
That I forgot to get her back. That's what I think.
You said that was
That's
the end of that.
Now.
You said, listen,
you're going back.
But my doing that was in retaliation for something you did to me. So we said, okay, we squash it.
No, but the thing you did was stink. You did it in a stink. Because mine was in a fun-filled way. Yours was a stink. And then, if I recall, there was some attitude and the whole. I think it ended up in a problem. I think we ended up in a problem situation. Because you acted stink.
Oh, because I even took you in the back here and I told you, boy, my lies are elaborate. I love it.
Yeah, because you stink.
Boy, that was a good one. Anyway, that's
you know what?
The end of
it's
that.
a good thing you don't have a body odor because between how you act and how you would smell, that would wanquish everyone. Listen, do you realize there's a potential? What happened?
Wanquish?
Yeah. Do you know? And this is not funny. This is extremely scary. There's a projected Cat 5 traveling, and it's coming toward us.
Coming toward us?
Yeah. I'm serious.
What's the name? What's his name?
Irma.
Storm. Irma? Oh, I work with a woman named Irma.
And the way, let's see, this is the first. My aunt is born on the 9th of September. That'll be, what will Wednesday be? Huh? Yeah, tomorrow's, what will Wednesday be?
Next week Wednesday, what, the 6th or something? I think this is 6th.
Yeah. That'll probably be like the 5th. Or, anyway, what is it? That? Wednesday is the 6th. So anyway, the bottom line is, it's right now it's coming at us, and we're in the cone. We're on the outside of the cone, but that's scary, man, because that could shift. Yeah, Cat 5.
Mm-hmm. You don't want that. You don't want that. But anyway, so just real quick, I thought you were playing.
I can buy a diesel station.
I thought you were playing a practical joke on me today.
That's how? In which way?
Okay, so about an hour before I came to the show, right? I got a direct call to my line. Mm-hmm. And this person came on the phone with what sounded like a British accent. And I know you always doing these silly accents.
Pardon?
Precisely. And he was like, hello. I know you don't know me, but I know you. I listen to the show. The accent sounded like he was putting it on, right?
But it was British?
It sounded British.
But was he British?
No, he's not. Okay. Right? And so he was saying that he listens to the show and he likes our guests and he likes the interaction and all that stuff. So he just started saying a bunch of different things. Yeah. His name was...
It'd be me calling up to compliment our show. Go ahead.
It's because of the way that he was saying it. So it sounded like I wasn't believing the guy on the phone. So I was like, and what's your name? And so he's like, oh, Brady. I was like, oh,
Who?
Brady. And what's your last name?
It's Cockney.
He said, Stuart. I said, oh,
Brady.
So I just started mocking him, right? Come to find out, this is somebody who really just listens to the show.
Yeah, and his name is, and he's Cockney.
No, he's like Australian.
He's Australian, right?
So
I'm on the Foster's. What do you call it?
Foster's beer.
Australian for
He's
beer.
been living here 100 years.
Yeah,
And
okay.
he has some connection to the
Okay.
island. So I felt very embarrassed. So when I hung up the phone, I was waiting for you to call back and say, boy, you stupid now. You know how you go.
Put a shrimp on the barbie. Yeah, go
Come to
ahead.
find out this really is.
Yeah. So what did you apologize to him?
So I waited. I called Tashina.
Mm-hmm.
I said, Tashina, were you playing a practical joke on me? She's like, no.
Okay, because she has a great Australian accent.
She works with a lot of like British people.
Okay.
So I thought she was putting them up.
Mhm.
So anyway, I called him and I apologized. He's like, no need. But I just had to explain that you're a practical joker and I thought you were just fooling around
Did
with
you
me.
explain to him that I'm a practical joker simply in response to your stink practical jokes?
No,
I never
don't,
did any
I don't
practical
start-
jokes before you.
Yes, you did.
No, ma'am.
You
From the very first day I met you, you're the one who instigated practical jokes.
You want me to tell you how far back this goes?
And yeah, do your
I
neck.
wasn't even working at Sunshine. I was working at the place before Sunshine when you started that practical joke.
Where did you work? You mean at the people?
We-
At the people then? What did I do? What was a joke? Why would I just come out of the blue and do a joke?
Because you stink like that.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I don't recall that. That's another lie.
That's not a
Listen,
lie.
we'll be back in a moment. Good afternoon. It's Foster's Australian for beer. Anyway, so
I shout out to that's my shout out to Brady
For
Stewart.
Brady Stewart,
Thanks, man. We
yeah.
appreciate you tuning in.
Brady, you can't imagine what one must endure. You know what I mean, Mike? G'day.
Oh, my friend said yes, Ed. She's insane.
See?
Shut
Of course,
up.
we know that. That is why Kendrick laughed. See, I gauge things. He doesn't even see me watching him, right? But I gauge
It's
by
so
Kendrick's
favorite.
reaction. So Kendrick could go to a whole show. I can tell when Kendrick is enjoying a show, when he finds a show intriguing, all of that without him saying anything.
That's funny.
But when you see him burst out laughing, that means someone nailed it. Now,
Oh, that was good.
I want you to bring up your man,
Who that?
Teets.
Oh, you know I love this man, right?
Yeah, he's.
but
I
boy,
don't. I feel. See, they all come falling down.
he's in a vortex of
Yeah.
controversy right
See,
now.
They all come falling down.
A quagmire.
And you know why? Because they're in such high pedestal. But anytime I told you before about this brother,
I don't have a problem with Joel Osteen.
let me tell you my problem with this brother. He always have someone every Sunday with his like the other day. I just happened to be at the mall.
You?
And what? What happened? What's the matter? What's she doing now?
Continue with just
What are you doing?
Okay, I ain't gonna laugh then.
Don't laugh.
Don't be funny.
Okay. I'm not being funny. I'm doing Joel.
That's not Joel Osteen.
That's Joel.
I don't know who that sounds like.
The other day,
He does
I
not
was
sound
at
like
the
that.
mall, and I just ran into a
Somebody
couple.
from The Simpsons.
And the couple said, we're
Ned Flanders.
having problems, Pastor Osteen, and we're trying to work out how we get to know the Lord. And I told them, you shouldn't have to work on how you know the Lord. The Lord will help you to know Him. Watch this. The hurricane happened, the flood. He can have church on Sunday, although he can't have it because the people in his building. He didn't want that because that's collection out of the picture. I had just happened to be in a storm the other day, and I ran into a couple and said, Pastor Osteen, what should we do in a storm? Well, I told them, laugh is a storm, and you have to navigate your way through it. Listen, brother, this guy, so you see what happened now, right?
You're just waiting for an opportunity to tear this man down.
Yeah.
That's the problem
No.
when you at the top. People always waiting for any moment to tear
This
you
is
down.
what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for shysters to fall. Let me tell you something about the brother.
I'm disappointed in his response,
Let
but
me
I
tell you something
understand
about the
certain
brother. I
parts
watched
of this.
him on Good Morning America or whatever.
It was not good.
See, okay, and you know
It
what
was
I could
not-
see?
He lied.
A guy who has never been questioned before,
He's been
put on the
questioned.
spot. No, not about doing
not like
something
this.
unseemly. You know, he may have been questioned about his faith and why do you do.
Yes.
But he's been now questioned about something unseemly. You didn't want the people in your
Ungodly.
church, right? Okay, and he even looked. The makeup wasn't even on good. And they ask him things. Well, I don't know about that, but what I can tell you is that we're open now.
Yeah.
Well, how many people you got going there? Oh, I couldn't tell you. Probably hundreds. There's a lot of food. There's a lot of stuff. We're getting a lot of stuff.
He didn't say it like that.
Whatever, you know.
But you know,
And then
I
you want
was
to show me some
disappointed.
puddles. Come on.
I was disappointed. I understood both sides. Kendrick and we were talking about this before the show started, right? Because I remember the state that the dome was in New Orleans, and I said, "Oh Lord, if it were my place,
You don't want his church stood up like that.
I don't, he don't want it. I can't blame him.
I think though
I can't
Joel is
blame him.
thinking now. See, Joel is a businessman. Joel's a
Absolutely.
businessman. Okay. Now I don't know how much Joel raking in every Sunday, but I think it's a big cash flow.
Well, he doesn't take a salary from the church.
No, I'm not worrying about his salary.
Okay,
I'm
but the
talking
church
about the
is from the
collection.
tithes, okay.
I'm saying that every Sunday, Joel's church bringing in some cash back.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the way that this storm action going on, people have been talking about things like years and months.
Mm-hmm.
But Joel can't afford to have the church at circulation for months.
Yeah. Well,
I got to bring my thing, and I gotta do do tithes.
What disappointed me was him saying, "Well, they didn't ask. You know, I was waiting for them to be basically filled at capacity before.
Who
you know,
asks? You give.
You just opened the church. You know,
Well, even if they didn't ask, the first
person who knocks, you just say,
you
"Come
don't
on
go.
in."
No, they didn't ask us yet.
Yeah. So that I watched that interview on GMA, and I was so disappointed. And I'm a big Joel Osteen lover, but I just was so disappointed in his response. It just seemed like he was lying, or he was nervous. I don't know. It didn't come across well. Are you doing his teeth?
He has too many teeth.
He's the same amount
and
of
on top of that,
teeth as you.
that hairstyle, the style.
The white man Jerry.
No, it's just like a fro thing, and
like
it's
a
like
Jerry curl.
I'm perfect. And so hey, it's only a matter of time. They've all come tumbling down.
No, I just feel like people were waiting for him to make a misstep to tear him down. That's what I feel.
Here's the deal. And let me just say this. Let me be very frank and candid. The combination of money and pastoring is not a good combo. And when I was brought up a Catholic. I don't have strong faith now. Okay. I was brought up a Catholic. But the one thing, and this is even some BS, because when you look at Pope and them, that's why I got to give my knocks out, hey, to your boy Francis, because Francis said, I live in an apartment. And he still got some perks.
But he get lots of perks. I just want to say, don't act like he's on
he got the
Papa.
thing. He got the white clothes and everything. I get it. He got the Bruno Magli red shoes. He got it. He got it going on. But what I'm saying is, so aside from their hypocrites as well, they talk. One thing that stuck in my mind is that if you're going to be preaching the Bible, preaching the Scripture, you have a life of basic. You live in a basic way. Right?
Why?
No, I'm just telling you what they preached. I'm not talking about why. I'm just saying what they preached.
You're talking about the Catholics?
The Catholics,
okay,
yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know why that stuck in my mind, because there's somewhere between basics and a $10 million house. Okay? I'm not saying you got to be in a shed.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you got to be in a shack. But when you go in with, the jets and all that, it's a little off for me. So when you get that kind of inflow of money, sooner or later, things start to get skewed. We've seen them all. We've seen every one of them.
Skewed in which way?
Well, you're now focusing more on money. In fact, what do they call it? When they preach how to make money. What do they call that? There's a thing.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
They accuse all those mega pastors, those pastors of the mega churches of doing
such a
prosperity or whatever. I don't know what you call it.
Or whatever
yeah,
the deal.
I can't remember what you call it.
You come to God, you can get this much for everything you
sow
put
a seed and you get 10 times the amount. That kind of
sow
thing.
a seed, you get some wheat. That's what So the thing is, it's uncomfortable for me, because it seems to be, and I'm going to use this scenario. I'm going to use this word very carefully. A Ponzi scheme. Okay?
I wouldn't agree with that.
It's a you come to me, you put in, and you get back. Like your pineapples.
Oh, those ones. Yeah.
You see, you put your money in, and you get, you come and it's
because there's lots of people putting in and they're not reaping.
But they doing it because
they believe very strongly in what the pastors say. I just think in this scenario, I was disappointed. But back to Joel Osteen, I was disappointed in his response. And watching the interview, he seemed like he wasn't being very honest.
He got caught off guard. He
totally got caught off guard.
You and I are in the PR world, okay? And what he got caught in is in a situation. I thought, to be honest with you, I said, you know what? If he just answered this, open the church, maybe he could get through this one. And maybe he will. I don't know. But here's the deal. You and I know very easily when we look at someone who has been caught in a scenario, and it could have been not even him. I'm not even going to attribute it to him. Could have been his custodians or whatever. That puts yourself in a very, very negative light. You can see when you're lying to cover it up.
Yeah.
It's the cover up.
Yeah.
You know, it would have probably been better. This is all hindsight, and you don't know. If you said, you know, we did say, you know, for the sake of the church and all that, it would be better to keep it close to and wait and see if they really needed us. We did make that decision, but we can see where that was a bad decision.
Exactly. Just come up and just
say that.
Just say that.
No. They asked. They didn't ask.
They didn't ask. So
you know, the county and the water and the stuff.
You got
and meanwhile, it's
Houston
dry. I know it looked dry,
displaced.
but there was water. Before the people took the camera, there was water.
You got your Houston residents displaced, and you need someone to ask? They hold a church to a totally different standard, to a higher standard.
Because you know what's so funny? I assume, like, I'm going to double check this. There were other stadia that didn't actually start taking in people till later. You know, stadiums. Okay.
I know what that means.
No. I'm just saying. So they didn't start taking in people late. So people obviously went to the shelters first, because you know what? You have to be. Let me just say this, and this could have been another statement he could have made. You have to be shelter ready.
He said that.
You know, you have to be shelter ready. You got to have food. You got to have cots. You got to have blankets.
And in his defense, he said that.
Okay.
And he said we certainly didn't want a scenario. He said that they were having some flooding issues, right?
Yeah.
He said he didn't want to be in a scenario where he welcomed evacuees inside the place and it flooded, because then that becomes a PR nightmare as well.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So maybe, you know, who knows?
You damned if you do, you damned if you don't. But he made a mistake there. He wasn't honest. Yeah.
Maybe it was the makeup. Maybe they got him up too early in the morning. I don't know. I happened to meet a couple in the storm.
He didn't have a,
and they said, huh?
He didn't have a story to start off.
That's what messed him up. That's what messed him up.
Like every Sunday he says, I like to start with something funny. And
yeah.
Then he just goes into the sermon.
I was going around and I ran into a young lady.
He didn't start with the story.
And she said to me, Pastor Osteen, you know,
Pastor Joe,
I've been having troubles in my life. And I said, well, what kind of trouble? She says, well, I've been trying to figure out how to make ends meet. And I said, well, what have you been doing? She says, well, I've just been praying. And I said, young lady, prayer is good. But the Lord says, those who pray shall not meet the ends they want. You know, something. You just come up with something. And everyone shifts there. Boy, he's great, eh?
He is great.
Wonder where he get that smile.
He is good.
Yeah.
I enjoy
I watch
Joel
them all.
Osteen.
I watch them all.
T.D. Jakes. I like him.
watch them all from Leon Wallace to teenage to
The Voice of Deliverance
to what do you name? To
Who?
Joel Osteen. I watch them all.
Mm-hmm.
When my boy Leon Wallace say, read! Say, he tell the woman, he said, now women, he said, the Lord made women, you must submit! When your husband come home,
the pork chop. Got that.
Okay? He hungry?
Wait a minute. Time out. Why does Leon Wallace have a southern accent?
No, all preachers. That's it.
No, he does
You're hungry? Get the pork chop with the gravy. Make sure I wipe the gravy off the side of the plate.
Presentation.
Sit it in front of him. Sit down next to him and watch him eat it with a smile. Read.
And submit.
Say, boy, this is a performance, man. You gotta watch it.
They all perform.
You must submit. That time all the sisters dress up in white fabric. Oh yeah.
Oh Jesus. The church so hot, right?
On. No, Leon is running them hot. We'll be right back. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here along with Rogan Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Rogan,
Chief Apostle.
You must submit. You'll be better off.
No blade me.
Anyway, so our guest, you know what? You'll be relaxed. You won't have to think about it.
I'm already relaxed.
Yeah. No, you're not. Our guests this afternoon are Siobhan Ambrister. Cambridge. I don't know where the hell I got Ambrister from.
I was going to say.
I was focusing on
Isn't the
getting
card
right.
in the front of you?
No, but I can't see that far.
Well, you did pull it closer.
Siobhan Cambridge and Latifah Wood.
Yes.
Did I get that right?
You did.
Sure
There you go. We got to pull these mics. No, just this one. Just a little bit so I can see Latifah. You know anything to Queen Latifah, are you?
No,
Is it the same spelling and everything?
very different.
Okay.
Yeah.
How is it? Your name is
Arabic.
spelled?
Latifa.
Arabic.
Yes.
Oh,
Fancy.
where's your burqa?
Sorry.
Where's your burqa?
At home with my
At home.
submission.
Okay, well, there you go. Well, you know the brothers over there. The brothers over there don't even need to say that. That's coming to territory. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You don't have to say, if you're Arabic, right? You don't have to mention submission. That come with the package.
Yeah. You're so silly.
Yeah. Anyway, on a more serious note, we're here to talk with Latifah of Arabic descent and Siobhan. They're from IRCA. And they're here to talk about the Bahamas Power and Light submission of their consumer protection plan, which we'll talk about in a bit. Because I didn't, it's kind of a, I suppose just out of ignorance, kind of a disconnect, no pun intended, to assert that the regulatory body like IRCA is responsible for overseeing consumer protection. I don't know why that doesn't link up to me, but it makes sense. But I want to ask any one of you who can feel free to answer: does IRCA require all utility companies that they oversee to submit these type of plans? Because I don't know if the general public is fully aware of that.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Yeah, we do. As a matter of fact, we do require that public electricity supplier licensees submit to us for this kind of exercise, consultative exercises, to bring to the public what it is they want those relationships to look like. So that is a requirement.
What they should have done before we went any further, Latifah, is to find out what your titles are. That would have made sense, obviously.
Corporate and Consumer Relations Officer.
There you go.
Yes.
And Siobhan, I can read, it says, since you've read hers, I'll read him because they can't speak. Director of Utilities and Energy.
Right.
Utility and Energy. Okay.
Okay. But to put in a nutshell what you're saying about the utilities and the Consumer Protection Plan, basically IRCA is a multi-sector regulator now. As of 2016, when the electricity sector came on stream, most people are familiar with IRCA and the electronic communication sector. But basically all licensees are required to produce consumer protection plans. And so basically what we're here doing now is the public consultation on BPL's consumer protection plan.
Let me ask you a question. Is it a common model that a regulatory body such as yours, which to my knowledge was born out of the broadcast regime, right? Is it common to have this multi-faceted oversight, from broadcasting to electrical to cable? I guess cable is broadcasting. But is that common?
That is common because basically what it is the industry then becomes regulatory works. So you regulate and there's, commonality between them. They're utilities, and then there's the framework, there's licensing, there's consumer protection, there's monitoring and that type of stuff. So the skill sets are the same, and when you start talking about the role of a regulator is to try and make things more efficient, it makes sense to have a multi-sector regulator.
Especially in an environment like this where you only have one of us, any particular entity maybe. You don't need a separate regulator just for the electricity company where there's only one company.
Right. So basically economies of scale kick into effect. Also, like I said, the skills are there when you start looking at things like tariff setting. So, it's a skill set from a legal point of view, from an economic point of view. I think where you see the little bit of diversification or segmentation would be in the technical areas, like broadcasting skills are obviously technical skills would be different from what you would need from a power industry type thing. So you have your regulators, regulatory officers, then you have technical officers that deal more with the industry-specific
so
skills.
you're utility and energy.
Yes,
I see.
I'm utility and energy.
So if Rogan and I curse on the radio, that's not your section. You can't really do nothing with us on that.
No, but I know the
you don't
people
know
who deal with them. You see. So they're right next door in the office next door, and that's
tap them on the shoulder.
yeah.
All right. So tell us now about first and foremost the why. I mean, I know this seems basic, but why a company is required to generically to submit its own consumer protection plan as opposed to there's some outside body kind of dictating that policy.
Okay. Well, the reason why the company does it is because it's we represent all stakeholders. And so basically the company comes forward and said, this is what we are prepared to do. This is our level of commitment that we're going to offer to our customers. And so the whole process of the public consultation is we then take it out to the customers so that they look at it and they say, we think this is good, or we think they can offer more in terms of protection. Mm-hmm. And the plan basically outlines the whole engagement process of the consumer with that organization. Mm-hmm. Like, to speak more specifically to the BPL plan, for instance, you have, when you deal with an electric utility, there are things like from the whole application process to the initial service engagement. So this plan speaks to all of that, how long they will take to connect you, what all documents you need to bring in when you're going to get connected. It talks to things like the metering frequency and accuracy levels that they say that they will maintain. If you have any complaints, they lay out how they will address it. So it takes the guesswork out of dealing with the entity, basically. And having the entity say this is what they propose to do is kind of hard. Now, there's buy-in, so to speak. They cannot come back and say somebody forced this upon them. Right. And they designed the plan with full knowledge of their resources and, what type of service they want to provide.
When you consult with the public and the public offers a suggestion to this plan, is a company like BPL then required to implement that plan or their suggestion, or how does it work from there?
What happens is during the consultation phase, we will get the feedback from the public. IRCA then reviews that in conjunction with the existing document that we would have. And actually, this is not the first iteration of this document. BPL would have made a submission. IRCA did an initial assessment and went back to them and said, we think you need to fine-tune it here and there based on some research that we would have done with other utilities of the same size and character, as well as even from larger utilities, because you need to aspire to get to someplace. Right. And so they then came back, and this is the second version of this plan, and now we take it out to the public for them to give their feedback on it. And once we get their feedback on it, we will again make some assessment of some of the comments. Those that are valid, we will advise BPL that, hey, we think this is a valid comment, or we think this needs to be adjusted, and send it back to them. And once they come back again, IRCA basically has the final say, so to speak, as to what is in the plan, and we will say, this standard here, we think you need to tighten up, and this is what we're going to set it at, and this is what you're going to have to strive to meet, and what have you.
How are you sourcing the comments? Is it through town hall meetings, or how are you reaching out to the public?
Through a couple of ways, actually. So we've used Facebook to field comments and queries as well. We've used our info@ircabahamas.bs emails. We're encouraging persons to also fax them in and even drop off copies to our Frederick Street office of whatever they feel, their suggestions and comments that they want to add to the document.
And we're running tape and transcripts and all that at the town hall meetings, as well as, I think we've been on one or two talk shows where we even got some call-in where took some notes.
Right.
And I can give you an idea of some of the type of comments that we've gotten so far. Like, some people have reviewed the plan at some of the initial town hall meetings and stuff, and people have made comments with regards to a lack of environmental standards and stuff, or they feel that there should be more to address those type of things in the plan. We've gotten feedback like there's inconsistency between the computer-generated bills and the regular bills that are mailed out. We've also heard a great desire for greater access and transparency to real-time billing details, because individuals want to be able to check their usage during the month rather than being surprised at the end of the month, or even being able to just go outside and read the meter and verify against what is on the bill themselves. And then there's even been some stuff like about the notification process. We now live in this era where people want information, they want it now. So people are saying they want a listing of the media means by which the company contacts them, whether it be conventional or social or even more consumer-specific notices. People want to be emailed and texted when issues develop with their supply.
I mean, I don't remember if it was a phone company or the electricity company, but I know there was one of the utility companies, I think both, who because sometimes it isn't intentional that you're not paying a bill or that you thought you paid the bill or whatever the deal is. You didn't get the bill. And you'd get, in those days, and it had to have been a tremendous amount of resources put on it, a phone call to say, excuse me, Mr. and such and such, we notice your bill is past due. Please make it current. Now you can do that with a text or an email. But does that happen now? I don't think you get a notice.
I get stuff like that through my phone company, that sort of thing, but not through
the electricity.
not
like
through
you'll get a bill that says past due, and you know what happens to me is because I don't check. I don't remember if I paid the past due. So you don't know, 'cause someone else is paying the bill or whatever the deal is. But just like a text to say your bill is past due. You have 14 days to settle, that type of thing. Is that the kind of thing you've been hearing about as well?
That's when she didn't submit and pay the bill.
Say again?
You said, must submit. They didn't pay the bill.
Miss Submit didn't pay. Yeah. Miss Submit didn't pay the bill. Yeah. Don't try to be. Listen, your job is to regulate. Okay? Now, okay, and you must submit to that. No, but you know what I'm saying. Is that, because the question with this slide, I want to tie this into the issue of standards, right? When these plans are submitted, there's obviously best practices that exist. How far off, for instance, would a company either dare to or will submit a plan that is, say, extremely way off from, say, industry best practices?
Well, I think most companies, progressive companies, try to get as close as they can to industry practices, but you're constrained by your resources, so to speak. And let's be real. I mean, you want to leave a little room to grow and to impress. So you don't want to come out and give it all you got the first go, and then you don't have nothing to improve on. But it's a iterative process. Like I said, it's going to be a living plan. As emerging technologies and trends and stuff come out, there will be updates to the plan. And the way IRCA operates is that basically anything of significant that will impact or that would significantly impact the sector goes out to public consultation. It's all about transparency and fairness and involvement, buy-in, participation, and all that stuff.
So what are some of the highlights? Now, of course, we have an interesting, nuanced environment here, right? Where the question of reliability on the service is probably on the top of everyone's list of concerns. The reality is, let's look at, say, BTC. This is many, many moons ago. There was not a day that went by when someone didn't have a reason to complain about BTC. The phone calls were dropping, the this, the that. You couldn't, everyone knew about the, huh? Oh, I was just talking for the last 5 minutes and you weren't even on the phone. But as they improved their services, essentially you don't hear about BTC anymore in that way. BEC for our whole lifetime has had a reliability issue. Okay? And that kind of overshadows everything because no one really wants to hear about anything else except how you're going to keep my light on. We're going to take a break. When I come back, I want to find out from both of you, how does that overshadow the capacity to get something like this done in a fair way? We'll be right back. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're here talking with Siobhan Cambridge and Latifah Wood.
Yes.
See, that's why you're making it difficult for me? Because for one, it's in the Bahamas we usually throw that S on the wood. You know, so you're a wood, no S.
I'm a wood, no
yeah.
S.
So that'd be like a field, like Ed Field. And people already have problems with my name, and I don't know why. It's simple. But we have Latifah Wood and Siobhan Cambridge, and they're from IRCA, and we're talking about the BPL. Most of us know it as BEC, but we're getting used to it. BPL Consumer Protection Plan. And the question I left with Latifah was, we exist in an environment of very poor reliability. I mean, there's no mystery here and there's no shaming here. It's just the way it is. The consumer feels that they aside from high costs, energy costs, that they're getting a kind of a triple whammy in the sense that, one, they're suffering from high costs, B, they're suffering from non-reliability, so it's an inconvenience, and C, the lack of reliability or the actual power outages costs them money. Mm-hmm. How do you then impress upon a company like BPL to somehow mitigate against that?
The way that we found to do that is to really adhere to the consultation document, have persons give their feedback, direct their inquiries to us, because it's important. This is what will guide the relationship going forward. So if you've lost a television, perhaps, in an outage, this will spell out, if you will, the timeline in which it is BPL, perhaps, should replace the same, or restore service, for example, and not, if in an instance it's typically 8 hours, you can request 4 hours. You can add that to the document as well. But we cannot advance it for the public. Right. The public has to lead the charge and hold this document would hold BPL accountable for the service standards, quality of service that they provide, where it concerns the electricity.
Okay. Does this particular document speak specific? Because I know that BPL. I'm in the BC era. Okay, like I'm in the College of the Bahamas era. Does this particular document speak to loss of because loss of equipment is already covered? I mean, I'm sure the public knows that. I don't know if they know that there's a process and you can go through the process and maybe that can be improved upon. Right. But how does this expand on that? In other words, does it expand on what do you call that? The consequential loss, for instance, like if you can quantify. Or is there an acceptable level of amount of power outages? I mean, this is really kind of a screwed up scenario where theoretically, I could be losing millions of dollars, thousands of dollars, and I have no recourse. Does this in any way address that?
Well, the document speaks more to standards from two points of view. There's the general standards that are more consumer specific, and then there are the overall standards that deal with the operation of the entire system. So there are things like service quality, like what frequency should be coming into your premises, what voltage bands are allowed, and that type of thing. When you start talking about specific losses, like I lost this item or that of that value and all that, those are still subject to, I guess, the whole assessment of the claim process and failing that to the whole legal process, because a lot of these things have to do with negligence laws and degree of culpability and that type of thing. So the document doesn't go into that in general, but it speaks to things like how do you go about submitting your claim and how long will they take before they review the claim and get back to you, and what level of information you'll be provided with regards to how your claim was assessed and what to do if you feel as though it is not being satisfactorily redressed at that stage, like to elevate any disputes that you may have.
But it wouldn't. And is it? And maybe it's not fair. But I got to ask the question again: is it fair to expand that which is claimable? I'm not talking. So if you can say that as a result of the power being off for, maybe there's a minimum standard, more than a day. Okay, because if you do it every, say, more than 10 minutes, you're in problems. But if you say more than a day, and you I'm not here to prescribe. Just can you?
Sectors, in other plans that I've seen, there have been penalties imposed for loss of service, whether it be things like loss opportunity, business interruption, those type of things. I've seen those in standards, and it's up to the public to come back and to say to what extent they wish to have BPL review and address those type of questions if that is what they seek.
I need to be to that town hall meeting.
Yeah. When is your next town hall meeting?
Well, we're rethinking our plan for Nassau because we would have done 2 town hall meetings already.
Okay.
And we are about to begin our Family Island campaign.
What was the attendance? What was the attendance like at those meetings? Because I never even know.
Not a packed house.
Yeah.
But certainly the feedback was very, very relevant, and it spoke for the greater number, according to our feelings.
But I was going to ask, do you feel that in a population of 300,000, Nassau being, let's say, 200,000, that the people that show up, and it is up to us to show up, is really representative to the extent that you can form or establish a code of, a plan based on that minimal. I mean, theoretically, I guess you need no one. I mean, in theory, I guess you could just do it and just go back and forth between the 2 companies. You're the regulator. But do you think it's represented, the crowds that you've been getting?
I would say this. The crowds that we've been getting, they have been individuals who have a keen interest in the sector. And so we've gotten some good feedback from them. But, this electricity thing is really a peculiar animal in that depending, your use and your concerns will differ just based on your lifestyle and what your needs are. Like you can go to a commercial customer, they'll have one thing. You can go to a residential customer who lives out east, they have their power experience is totally different from that of someone who lives out west or who lives on if you go to someone in Nassau, their views and the way they utilize power is different from the guy in Crooked Island and that type of thing. And when you look at BPL, you have to look at the span of their network. A lot of us, we tend to get Nassau-centric and don't. So this plan is to address BPL's entire territory, and so that's the key thing there.
So where are we now in the process? Just to reiterate, you're now sending it back to them?
Moving to the Family Islands, eh?
Yeah, what we've been doing is we've completed basically the tour of New Providence, but the consultation period is open until it closes at the end of October. So people can still go online to our website, download the plan, review it. They can send their comments via the website. They can drop them off at IRCA. They can send them Facebook. I think they can even they can mail them in, and Latifah will probably give you all the contact details. But we're now going to go to the Family Islands, and like I said, different demographics have different concerns. So we chose islands that represent the different use or consumption patterns that we were able to just determine on the surface. So we're going to like Abaco, Eleuthera, Exuma, Acklins, Crooked Island, Inagua. So we're going from the 80,000 consumer-based New Providence right down to, I think we even intend to stop in on Long Key, which is like 11 consumers.
Yeah. Well, one good thing about when you stop at Long Key, you'll get 100% of the people participating. It'll be the entertainment for the day. But the question, with all of the work you're doing, and which I assume you're mandated to do in terms of public awareness, do you think people know what's going on? I mean, you think people are aware that there's a BPL consumer plan process going on? I mean, just, because I did. So before you walked in the door, and even though it was on the thing, the thing they give me.
You had no idea.
No, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I had no idea what we were talking about and what we're going to be talking about and what was it we're going to talk about.
I'm going to let our consumer officer take
Right,
that.
because I was going to say that the beauty in all of this is that my colleague, Mr. Cambridge, is going to be walking persons through the actual document during the sessions, and, making the terminology more easy to digest and the document in and of itself more user-friendly if persons find it not to be. So
No, not that the document isn't. I'm talking about, are they even aware that there is a document?
Yeah.
That that this is something that they, I get the feeling that, for instance, BPL, like if your fridge gets burnt out, for instance, that there's probably a small percentage of people who realize that there's a form you can fill out to get your fridge back. I mean, so I don't know how much Bahamians are aware of their rights as consumers.
And those ones are even in this document as we speak today. But what it is that I think the whole aspect of regulations and sectors being regulated, regulatory works, is new to Bahamians. And so we are doing an active campaign right now with the BPL Consumer Protection Plan, but we also have a consumer awareness campaign that the CCR team will be doing later this year and early next year to get people familiar. And, like I said, the involvement is growing. People are starting to and people will join in as they see benefits of it. Right now, people just say, oh, there's something else they're doing. But once they see fruits of this type of effort, then, you're not Bahamians.
Well, what you said off the air was interesting, and I'd never really thought about it, is that all of our utility companies up until, when was IRCA established? 2009. I mean, that's, 6 years ago, 7 years ago. That the reality is that up until that time, all of these utility companies, primarily BC, Batelco, ZNS, Water and Sewage, were self-regulating. I mean, there was nowhere to go to except the company itself. Was Water and Sewage, is that under IRCA as well?
Not as yet.
They're coming to get you. They're coming to get you. Adrian, we had Adrian on there. They're coming to get you, Adrian. So that in itself is a paradigm shift. And I guess maybe where people felt in the past that what's the use, of going, how do you complain to the person you're complaining about, Now they have a independent body. And have you seen a paradigm shift as a result of that?
What people don't realize, too, is that a lot of these entities welcome being regulated.
Right.
Because now they have an independent body that can say that what they're doing is well done, or that they're doing the best that they can with the resources that they have. And a lot of them like the aspect of being regulated, because the regulator then looks at it and say, if you want more, it may cost more. You may have to review the tariff. And, for years, you try to review tariffs, and it's like, oh, no, we want you to do better, but no more money for you. Yeah. That's it.
Well, do you find at IRCA that people are coming to IRCA, or they still don't realize? Because, it's kind of out there, right? Do people realize IRCA exists for this purpose?
To a degree, they do.
Okay.
We have been fielding a number of issues, anywhere from persons who need help from the past storm to persons who come to IRCA asking for more carnival seating. So it's a bit confusing. Absolutely. And
y'all regulate
and
that
we sure don't. But we have to redirect them. So you're right. They do not have a full-on appreciation for what it is IRCA does. So as Siobhan would have said, we will begin an education campaign informing and advising the public as to what it is our responsibilities entail and things like that.
Okay. So now, if you were to highlight what the citizens should be concerned about as something to, that in terms of their rights, what would be the highlights that they should be versed in?
Well, the highlights that people would want to be, one, you want service quality. Two, everybody's concerned about costs. And you want the reliability issue, timeliness of service and response and what have you. And, well, the number one that I should have said first is safety. You want to make sure that what you're receiving is safe, and the delivery of it and the use of it and everything else. So safety, your money, and then quality.
I see here on page 16 where it's talking about consumer complaints, the company outlines, the incidents where it will not honor claims for damages, and it seems pretty vast here. It almost feels like, for me, why am I even going to submit a claim? Because this is to me, so exhaustive. They're not going to pay for this, that, the next thing. It's like, what am I submitting a claim for?
That is one of the areas where we've gotten a lot of feedback, and so that is something that
I'll be writing in about that.
Yeah. What page is that on?
Page 16 under consumer complaints.
And there needs to be some clarification brought to that. I don't think it was meant to be we're not going to pay for anything.
That's what it feels like.
It deals with the level of remoteness of an event and what they would be responsible for. Like, you have certain things, like you have lightning strikes and stuff, they call that an act of God and that type of thing. You can't expect them to stop that.
No, sure.
But, of course, if somebody goes out there and crosses up some wires and burns up your stuff, then, you know, that's a negligent act and you expect to be compensated.
Where's this issue?
16.
Yeah, but that's not.
So that has been
normal wear and tear,
identified
that
by a
switching
number.
surges.
Yeah. So you're not covered for they're surging
voltage
because they're
deviations?
switching, as opposed to I mean, what's the difference? Because that was covered up until.
That is what they have in their plan.
Okay, because that was
now
covered.
It's up to you
That's the one thing that's supposed to be covered.
And one of the things that I would like to highlight.
That's why I'm going to be writing in.
One of the things that I'd like to highlight to the public
I'm
is
making
that
it. No, don't write it. I'm making that thing now.
Yeah.
We're doing it here. We're making the formal.
No, I can put it in writing.
This is not IRCA's plan. This is BPL's
plan. We having a town meeting now. Okay. Okay. This is like long key. There's only 3 people in the town. Okay. Okay. And we're saying switching surges or any kind of surge. Okay. Because that's where things get damaged in the surges. So I don't know if there's a distinction between a switching surge and another kind of surge.
I will be going through this with a fine-tooth comb.
And like I say, it all speaks to reasonableness. It is, other utilities are switching and stuff, and if they're not surging, how come is it that you may be? How do you choose to exempt yourself? So.
Well, I would assume that's in there because that's now, I'm coming back from an insurance perspective, right? Because that's probably now the most frequent source of claims. That's my assumption that I'm making.
The line says they recommend that you insure your electric and electronic equipment against damage.
But I think that in your insurance policies, surges are not covered.
Exactly. So
it's actually excluded in a policy. An electrical surge is not covered.
So that's an issue.
So that's an additional thing. Well, it's interesting stuff. And what should people now do if you can give a kind of aside from these town hall meetings, which the average church, what should people do in order to engage in this process?
Well, like I said, we would have been taking submissions from the town hall meetings, which are already done for Nassau, and we're going to re-strategize and publicize the new plan for Nassau. But as for now, we were focusing on the Family Islands. But for everyone else, just all and sundry, you can email us your concerns, your amendments, to info@ircabahamas.bs. You can fax them. The fax number is 393-0237. You can post them on Facebook. Like I said, we've been fielding the responses from there as well. So our Facebook page is IRCA Bahamas. You can mail them in. It will be to the attention of the Chief Executive Officer, but the P.O. Box is N4860. And you can hand deliver a copy as well to our Frederick Street office, Frederick House.
Okay.
So this seems pretty straightforward to me. I can understand this. But for those individuals who are having difficulty comprehending this, is there some hotline or how do they get someone to break this down?
They can call into the hotline, or if you call the office and there's a particular issue that you want to walk through, they can patch you through to my office and we can discuss it. And
what if they say I don't understand the first 12 pages?
Well, then you probably need to come in so we can sit down and flip through the pages. But I tell you, we're making every effort possible to be accessible and to get as wide a participation as possible.
Yeah.
All right. Was there anything else you wanna cover about this? Or is there any?
Really, if I may just go through the town hall meetings that are on the islands. So we'll be in North Abaco on Tuesday, the 26th of September. We'll be in Marsh Harbor on the 27th of September. South Abaco on the 28th. Acklands on October 4. Crooked Island on October 5. Inagua on the 12th of October. And Rock Sandy Luther on the 17th of October. And Governor's Harbor on the 18th of October. And Lower Bogue on the evening of the 18th. And on October 24th, we will be in Exuma. Okay. Sorry, that should be the 19th for Lower Bogue. My apologies. So the 19th.
Which of the islands experiences, the Family Islands that is, experiences like the highest number of outages? Do you know?
No,
I bet you it's New Providence.
No, I said on the Family Islands.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to say. I know that we get outage reports. There's a certain criteria that an outage has to surpass before it becomes a IRCA reportable.
Okay.
So, and I would know which island we tend to have those from, but that doesn't mean that that's the island with the most outages. Because if you have a number of 10-minute outages, then that's not really.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, what's the amount before it becomes reportable?
Anything over 2 hours is then you have to.
Oh, so that means you don't get any reports then. Because we got a lot of shorter than that. I want to ask you a question just before we wrap up about the overall issue of consumer protection that I don't know if you can address or not, but I'd like to hear, because I was in another agency meeting today and this issue of consumer protection came up. And the fact that there's in my estimation, a void in the sense that, the representation that in terms of people showing up to these things to make, comments and input is relatively small compared to the general population. That's no fault of IRCA or anyone else. It's just people don't show up. Do we need and I don't know if it'd be government funded or if it's a private sector thing or if it's a non-profit, but do we need a consumer protection agency that deals with all of these issues as far as customer service and consumer protection so that they focus very heavily on all of these type of scenarios and give a input from more of a think tank researched environment, because I imagine that the average citizen who shows up, like you say, only has their little specific thing that they're concerned about, but they haven't taken the time to research like consumer protection agency things from
best practices and service. I think you need, if not an agency, you need at least some type of body that takes it on, because and like I tell people, a lot of people tend to think of the regulator as the sector police, but we're actually there to represent all stakeholders. And the utility provider is a stakeholder, the government is a stakeholder, and the consumer is a stakeholder. And basically, we're trying to make sure that everybody's needs are met as best as possible, and with considering the resources that are available to meet those needs. And, if you come in with just your little myopic view or viewpoint or standpoint, you're only looking at your interests. So the regulator's goal is to really take that broader look. And I think a consumer protection agency in the broader sense would be taken, like you say, go out there and do the research, check against international best practices, look at what we have available to do it with, and then say this is realistically, looking at it with no horse in the race. This is realistically what we can expect, and this is what you, the provider, should be doing. This is what you, the consumer, should expect. And then you have properly managed expectations.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean?
I have a question.
Okay,
Are we going to take a break?
Yeah.
Let's take a break then.
And then we'll wind up after the break.
Mm-hmm.
I will be right back. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are here in the last segment with Mr. Siobhan Cambridge, who's the Director of Utility and Energy at IRCA, and Ms. Latifah Wood.
No S.
Who is in charge of corporate services at IRCA. Just winding up, I know, Rogan, you want to...
No, just very quickly, I was thinking, once this consumer protection plan has, you've gotten all the feedback from the public and BPL proceeds with its plan, if there's an issue where they fail to live upon these agreed tenets or whatever, what are the repercussions for that?
There are certain penalties that are outlined in the plan where, they will pay a certain fee if they go outside of certain time zones and stuff like that. But also, it's open to IRCA to take regulatory action if they breach the plan.
Okay.
So the IRCA does have some authority to take regulatory action. And
I imagine it's financial. It's the last thing you want to do is shut them down.
Right, yeah.
Because that's a problem already. Well, listen, thank you, Latifah Wood and Mr. Siobhan Cambridge for coming by. At least we now know that there is a thing called a BPL consumer plan that many of us, including myself, I don't know if Rogan knew about it.
No.
And listen, we're happy that this is happening because there certainly probably wasn't one before. It was self-regulated. They probably just had their own customer service program. But thank you for coming by. And if there's anything in the future, please feel free to contact us.
Will do.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Take care.
Thank you.